Hello, friends. The waters of the Nile shimmer under the midday sun as my canoe drifts past the towering ruins of ancient temples. But there is one city, lost to time, that once stood as a symbol of rebellion, devotion, and controversy. It was called Akhenaten, the city of the sun god, built by a pharaoh who dared to challenge centuries of tradition. His name was Akhenaten, a ruler so radical that later generations tried to erase him from history. Before Akhenaten, Egypt had followed the same religious traditions for centuries. The people worshipped many gods, with Amun-Ra as the supreme deity. The temples of Amun were vast and powerful, controlled by priests who held as much influence as the pharaoh himself. But when Akhenaten came to power, he did something no pharaoh had ever done before. He abandoned the old gods and declared that only one god should be worshipped: the Aten, the sun disk. At first, his reforms seemed simple. He built new temples dedicated to Aten, portraying himself and his queen Nefertiti as the high priests of this new faith. But soon, things took a drastic turn. He closed the temples of other gods, confiscated their wealth, and broke the power of the priests of Amun. He even changed his own name from Amenhotep IV to Akhenaten, meaning effective for Aten. But Akhenaten's most radical decision was to move the entire royal court to a brand new city, Akhenaten, the horizon of Aten, far away from Thebes and the influence of Amun's priests. Here, in the middle of the desert, he built a city devoted entirely to his new religion. The temples were open-roofed, so the rays of Aten could shine directly on the worshippers. Art changed too. For the first time in Egyptian history, pharaohs were shown as real people, with elongated faces, soft bellies, and intimate family scenes. To Akhenaten, this was a golden age of truth and devotion. But to the rest of Egypt, it was a disaster. The powerful priests of Amun, once central to Egyptian society, were cast aside. The old traditions were ignored. Without the usual prayers and rituals, people feared that the gods would abandon Egypt. Meanwhile, foreign enemies saw Egypt's internal chaos as an opportunity, and the empire began to weaken. After ruling for 17 years, Akhenaten mysteriously disappeared from history. Some believe he died naturally, while others suspect he was overthrown. Either way, his religious revolution did not last. His successor, Tutankhaten, quickly changed his name to Tutankhamun, restoring the old gods and returning the capital to Thebes. Akhenaten's city was abandoned, his name was erased, and his radical ideas were buried under the sands of time. For centuries, no one spoke of Akhenaten. His statues were destroyed, his temples dismantled, and later pharaohs tried to pretend he never existed. But history has a way of uncovering lost stories. And today we see Akhenaten not as a heretic, but as a visionary who dared to challenge the norms. But what of the boy king who followed him? Tutankhamun, the child pharaoh, would restore the old gods. But his life would be cut tragically short. Yet, in death, he would achieve a kind of immortality that no other pharaoh ever did. Join me next time as we uncover the story of Tutankhamun, the boy who became the most famous pharaoh in history.